They are an IT outsourcing company. If you're a business, and just like most businesses nowadays, you need different IT services. You have to involve computers, data, internet, servers, all of that kind of stuff. TTech's goal is to be that one-stop shop company. Hi, guys, and welcome to Tickers, the new series on the Limitless podcast, where we discuss listed companies on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Thaon.
And today we'll be talking about TTech, ticker as TTech. But before we get into the video, we would love if you guys would subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Also, you can follow us on all podcasting platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It really means a lot to us. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of this year. So subscribe on YouTube. And without further ado, let's get into it.
You know, you said we're trying to get to 1,000. I put on my story when it was my birthday. I was just like, guys, my only birthday wish is if you guys could just follow the Limitless podcast. We got up to 600 followers, so big up you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen in one sec. You're seeing my screen?
Yep. Let's get it.
Oh, okay, awesome. So TTech, we have our usual layout and format. I like my Notion. So let's get into TTech. Let's first understand, how does TTech make money, right? So essentially, they are an IT outsourcing company. So, if you're a business, and, just like most businesses nowadays, you need different IT services. You have to involve computers, data, internet, servers, all of that kind of stuff, right? TTech's goal is to be that one-stop shop company. So you as a company don't necessarily have to hire an IT department, or maybe even sometimes your IT department needs a little help. TTech can say, hey, we can assist you. So you can essentially outsource a lot of your IT services to TTech, right? And I just looked into some of the different products and services that they offer. One of them is cybersecurity. This is actually one of the areas that they are hoping to push into pretty heavily, and we'll talk more about it later. But if you think about it, it makes sense, because with more and more of us using computers, more and more of our data being online. Like if you think about it, when it's like cash, most of the money that you use, it's not cash. For a lot of people, it's online and things like that. So for cybersecurity, it's important because you're essentially protecting your assets and those different things that you own online, your data. So cybersecurity, and if you also look at it, there are a lot more hacks that are going on in the world now.
A lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Mayberry's hack.
Yeah, I mentioned
Mayberry
that later.
Okay,
I mentioned some of the stuff later on. But essentially, they're like, hey, so to try to protect you from getting hacked and stuff like that, we can give you that protection, the cybersecurity, and that's something that they're focusing on. They also offer different IT and IT consulting and management services. Essentially, you don't necessarily have to have a chief information officer at your company. They will function as your chief information officer. Companies could be saying, hey, we want to do this project. We need some IT assistance here. They can say, hey, TTech, can you help us? And then TTech will hire their people and can say, yes, of course, we can step in. We can sort this out. And then maybe they do that project. And then the company's like, hey, this was pretty good. Maybe I should start to use them for other IT services. They also offer cloud migration. More and more of us are using different cloud services, iCloud or Google Drive, Dropbox, all of those different stuff, because it makes sense that, okay, instead of you have to have the physical hard drive in your building, you can just have like a cloud server in a remote area that can be protected, that has your data on a server encrypted, and then you can easily access it from even multiple countries and multiple computers. So if you are a business that says, hey, we want to move from just having the physical hard drives in our office to cloud service, where a lot of times it can be more affordable and easier, They can help you with that process to make it easier. They can also do basic tech support, the classic thing. Oh, I'm having this issue with my computer, and they're like, "Well, have you tried turning it on and off and those kind of stuff?" That's the classic thing that will fix almost any IT issue. If it's like my mom, a family member, anybody, I'm just like, "Did you turn it on and off?" Like for some reason, it just works. So I'm
Yeah.
sure TTech uses that as their first line of business, or their first line of work or whatever. But tech support, they do that. They also can do apparently certain communication tools if you need it in your business. Like they can set up things like instant messaging, video calling, things like that, where it can be pretty, I think, private and encrypted. They offer that as a service. And another one that they're pretty bullish on, we'll talk more about it, is the Data Protection Act. They are offering a bundle that will essentially help you with that transition, to be compliant with the Data Protection Act. So as I said, it's a lot of different IT services that they offer. So they are just like they're supposed to be like a one-stop shop for different IT services. Okay. Some of the things that are going around the company in terms of the ecosystem, the big thing is the Data Protection Act. So how I see this is that, once again, with more and more of us using computers and more of our data being stored online, you want to make sure that it is protected, right? Because if you think about it, even with Jamaican companies, some of these companies, they have overseas customers, right? So they have
Yeah.
customers in the US and the UK. And in those, they are collecting their data, and we need to make sure that we store it properly. But what if we're not storing it properly, and then data gets hacked, and then that company says, "Hey, we want to sue you," or that person says, "We want to sue you because you didn't protect my data adequately." So
Mm.
how I see it is that the Data Protection Act is trying to make sure that it's trying to up the standard for how data is properly stored and things like that, to try to prevent data from just being released out to the open and stuff like that.
I have a
So,
question.
mhm.
Do you know the number one industry that has been mentioned within the Data Protection Act in terms of
Medical,
data? Yeah, healthcare data.
medical. Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
mhm.
crazy.
So the Jamaica has implemented a Data Protection Act, and other countries, I'm sure, other countries have done it too. But we recently implemented our act. We've been working on it for a while. There was like, I think
Has
they
it been
first,
implemented?
yeah, I think it was supposed to be implemented
Supposed to
December
be.
last year. But then there's like it's kind of work. I guess there's some sort of transition period, but then the transition period was supposed to be from before. But from
Yeah.
what I saw, it's supposed to be implemented now. It's supposed to be, well, it would have been months ago.
It it I can guarantee you it's not. So the first step is registration, but
Mm-hmm.
who enforces the registration is supposed to be the Integrity Commission, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll know. So I don't know when it will actually happen,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's supposed to be in
Mm-hmm.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was supposed to go into place December 2023. And so,
Yep. December 1.
essentially, how I see it is that the act, I should probably share this. The act, so I actually found the act. So you can see this was from 2020. And this act is actually 123 pages.
Yeah, I've tried to
123
read it.
pages. So you can imagine that, to be compliant with this act, it's gonna take a lot. And I remember some of the wording of this, like it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of certain lawyer talk or company law and things like that. So it's gonna be kind of hard for someone to even understand it.
Yeah,
And
you
there have
need
been
a DPO.
revisions of the act. You need someone who has this kind of knowledge. And so TTech is saying, wait, all of these companies, and not just TTech, other companies and other
Yeah.
companies, I will talk about them. They're like, Jamaica has a lot of businesses and stuff like that. They, I mean, if you look at us just as a country, we're not really like the most IT savvy in general compared to like a developed country. So, or businesses, if all the businesses are supposed to be compliant with this Data Protection Act, and then a lot of businesses are going to have an issue doing this, I think TTech and other companies are saying, wait, if we can specialize in this and we can do the deep understanding with the act, we can just help you to be compliant with this. So that's essentially what TTech is doing with their data protection product that I mentioned. They will help the company make that transition, make sure that they're following the rules and regulations. And they have actually mentioned that they are seeing an uptick in some of their security products and stuff like that since leading up to the Data Protection Act and stuff. So that's I guess that's something that I see interesting with them. So the act is coming into play because the companies are going to have to make a lot of changes. TTech can be one of those companies that helps with that
Agreed.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that is important to look at is the amount of cyber attacks happening. There are just, so you mentioned one, and I'll say why that one is kind of funny, but the amount of cyber attacks that are happening. So I saw some statistics in this Observer article I'd mentioned that for Jamaica last year, 43 million attempted attacks apparently happened, and that was actually an increase. So that's 43 million in 2023, and then 30 million in 2022. But so far, apparently, we've seen a decrease in the amount of attacks. The article mentioned that 4 million had happened in the first half of 2024. But what they're saying is that you have to remember that it's not just the amount of attacks, because you could have less attacks, but then depending on who you're attacking, you could still end up earning more money. So this isn't just the value of it's not 43 million US or 40 million like dollars. It's just saying a number of attacks. So what they're saying apparently is that the hackers are switching to certain industries. So they're going after things like utilities, transportation, healthcare, government. But yeah, like we all know that, and it makes sense because I guess if it's if more people are going online, more data is now stored online. It incentivizes hackers to be like, hey, or incentivizes criminals to be like, instead of me going to your house stealing your safe, I just hack your bank account, because that's how the world is now. It's more of us are online. So it wasn't far fetched to think that this would happen. Um, but you mentioned, for example, Mayberry. Mayberry got hacked June 2023. The FSC, the Financial Services Corporation of Jamaica, got hacked September 2023. And I even saw Derriman Trading Limited, also listed, got hacked August 2023. But one of the things I need to mention, trying to see if I still have the article up. I don't know if I still have it up. One sec.
I had a conversation with a brethren about, Mayberry's hack,
Uh-huh.
and you kind of can meds the gravitas of the situation
Mm-hmm.
based on the amount of data that a lot of banks need in order for you to open up an account. So think about it. If you were to open up an account, you need, you know, your name, your address, your date of birth, your whole identity, right? You also may need, depending on if you're opening up a joint account with like, I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's a spouse or with a kid or something like that, having a dependent. You may have to have their passport images up. You may have to have, maybe, I don't know if it's a marriage certificate for certain things. You may have to have a lot of crucial information stored, right, in order to open up like certain accounts or the certain transactions. Your signatures
Mm-hmm.
would be there and so on. You could literally sell somebody's data, and that's how identity theft happens. So you could have
Mm.
somebody's maybe death certificate and that gets sold, or and who knows what your information can be done to the right with the right hackers. So I guess you're gonna share something doing it,
Yeah,
right?
so I found this article. The irony. This is an Observer article, September 2022,
Mm-hmm.
titled "Doing It Right: The T-Tech Story." So it actually goes through this guy on screen, Edward Alexander. He is the founder of T-Tech. His story is actually interesting because his dad was the chairman and the CEO of Grace Kennedy in the past. His name was Selwyn Carlton Alexander, and his son, Edward Alexander, also worked at GK, but he was essentially in the IT department. He was a chief information officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think GK was trying to improve their IT infrastructure. And then he saw a need that said, hey, why don't I just set up? There are a lot of businesses that want these IT services, but there isn't someone that they can easily go to for this. And he said, hey, let me leave GK and I'm going to set up my own business. And then GK
Mm-hmm.
ended up being a customer. I think GK was like their first customer.
And they're
But
still
one of
their
the
customer to this
oh,
day.
but
Yeah.
I think there's other people. I don't think it's just TTech is their like IT stuff. I feel like I've seen another company too. But one of the things I found interesting. So TTech has, I think it's TTech. Like there's a TechCon, which is like a conference, right? So the article mentions that last year's TechCon, one of the sessions we had was on digital transformation, and Christopher Berry, the executive chairman of Mayberry Investments, he spoke about why they took the decision to outsource their IT services to TTech and the positive effect it had on Mayberry and how it helped them to get on with their digital transformation journey. Notice that this
Mm,
article was 2022, and when was the hack?
last year, 2023.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's still a client. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone is gonna make. It can't. I'm sure it would be impossible to be like, okay, we set up a security team or whatever, and you'll never get hacked. And the other thing too is that suppose it's not even necessarily T-Tech's fault. Like it could have
Yeah.
been.
They
There's
could have
so
been
many things that.
recommended certain products to them
Yeah, and
and
then they
they
said
just,
no. I don't know,
yeah,
but I just
anything
found
could
that.
have happened.
I just found that. Yeah, I just found that interesting. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
point is, lots of cyber attacks are happening. A lot of businesses need better to up their cybersecurity. So there is a big need. So
Yeah.
if T-Tech is smart, they can capitalize on that. But remember, they're not the they're not the only one in the space. So they're the only listed one that I know. But when I was looking it up, there are a lot of other competitors, and a lot of them
Mm-hmm.
actually have some interesting. A lot of them are bigger. So the one that stood out to me is a company called Fortinet. So Fortinet is actually listed on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. They are a big company. They have a market cap of 60 billion US, but they have an arm. They have a Jamaican arm essentially. Like there, I saw that, for example, in an Observer article August last year, they said that Fortinet is moving to double down on its business locally, and said plans remain front and center to realize this in the short term. And that was August 2024. So you can say this is the article. This guy here, Ronald Donaldson, is a country manager for Fortinet Jamaica. And then someone is a regional sales manager for Fortinet English Caribbean. So I was like, wow, this is actually interesting. There's a big, big dog, and T-Tech is essentially having to compete with one of their subsidiaries. So I think that's pretty interesting. It makes sense because the market, it can't just be T-Tech there. The T-Tech, yeah, the only listed one, so I will be able to find out more information about them.
Mm-hmm.
But Fortinet having those ties with such a large parent company, Fortinet Jamaica having ties with such a large parent company is going to be, I think, pretty hard for T-Tech. And they do a lot, based on
Yeah.
what I see, like they do a lot of the services that T-Tech would do.
The crazy part about like software companies like this or
Mm-hmm.
software heavy companies is, the bigger the companies, it's harder to compete because you just have such a larger team that can take on so many more clients. And the team
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to stay in one place. The team could be globally.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have Frank in in Britain, right, working as a cybersecurity guy monitoring. But when it's sunset over this side and it's sunrise over by like Australia, you have you know
Mm-hmm.
Jake doing whatever and so on. So it's just you can do so much more with a bigger company. You can offer so much more. You have such a bigger team. You have more staff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm. And as I said, like I was looking up more competitors. There's another competitor called DCI. And when I was looking at a lot of their, like, oh, see what I was saying? They were one of the Grace Kennedy is one of their clients. The DCI, Lasco is a client, JMMB Group, Kingston Works. Those are big companies.
Huge.
And when I look at the products that they offer, it's a lot of some of the similar stuff that I see. You know, the global IT consulting, tech, and outsourcing company. They're not the only one. So I think I see another company, Astra, same stuff. So I think it'll be interesting to see how TTech is able to differentiate themselves from this. So you see this company I mentioned in Astra, they have things, design services, cybersecurity. So there's a lot of competitors in the space. There are none that we can necessarily as easily find out information on, but they don't just have it. They're gonna have to fight. They're gonna have to fight, you know?
Yeah.
And so in terms of some of the plans that TTech has, I have mentioned it before, they are focusing on cybersecurity. They said that they're changing the focus of the company. They're going to prioritize their security portfolio. And they are actually I've seen already, they mentioned in like an article, or I think it was at their shareholder meeting this year, that they've seen a uptick in their security portfolio, which makes sense. They also mentioned tapping into new markets. And this actually ties into something that's important, Simply Secure. So, one of the reasons why we're looking into TTech is that TTech now has new management, right? So, recently this year,
I met
I
Kevin.
think, I think it was July this year, 49.1% of the company was actually bought by another company called Simply Secure, right?
Simple.
The shareholders that sold, they're the same founder that I mentioned, whose dad like used to work at or was a chairman and CEO of Grace Kennedy, was Edward Alexander. He was the majority seller, and also Christopher Reckford, who was the CEO previously, before the current, well, not even. He was the CEO after Edward. So Edward Alexander was the initial CEO. When he stepped down, Christopher Reckford stepped in as the CEO, and yeah, they both sold shares, which is almost 50%, but it's specifically not 50%. We'll talk about why. And so you see these two guys, you can tell I have a picture. The guy on the right, his name is Kevin Gordon. Then the guy on the left is Rob Mayo Smith. I did some digging on the Kevin Gordon guy. He has an interesting story. It's like he essentially was in school, but then used to like waste a lot of time and even got apparently kicked out of school and then had to go to a technical school where it's like he was focusing on IT stuff, and then he fell in love with it, and then he did like a lot of studying, and then ended up I think working at some IT companies, worked at Flow, and then eventually was like, I'm gonna start my own business, and that's how he essentially founded Simply Secure. So Simply Secure is actually based in Florida. So they're not a Jamaican based company, but I have their website, a lot of their customers are actually Jamaican or Caribbean companies. So I'm showing the website now. There's a part where essentially they offer a lot of the same services that I see TTech offers: managed security, managed IT, vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, dark web monitoring. And if you look at this, our clients: Carimed, JPS, RGR Gleaner, Guardian Group, Rainforest, TVJ, One Spot Media, Airports Authority, Wigton Wind Farm, or Wigton Energies, Port Authority, Megamart, NWC, Gleaner. Like, these are
Big
even
clients.
Jamaica Stock Exchange, Trinidad Stock Exchange. These are some pretty big clients. So I think it's interesting that they have essentially bought. They essentially, they don't technically control the company, but they essentially control the company. I was
Yeah.
trying to find out more
Majority shareholder.
information. Yeah. I was trying to find out more information on Simply Secure, but there's this website, Zoom Info, that says that their revenue is less than 5 million US. I don't think it gave a time like when it was less than 5 million US. 5 million US would work out to about 775 million Jamaican. If that's right, trying to have an idea of what size company they are, if they're profitable, I did see something on LinkedIn. Kevin Gordon on his LinkedIn, he made a post saying that how they how Simply Secure, this was 1 year ago. He says, "Oh, one more government contract signed," and he was referring, I think, to the U.S. government.
Mm.
Um, so I found this, and so notice it says one more. So I mean that they already had a government contract, and we know that or government contracts, and we know that government contracts can be pretty big. So I get trying to see if there's a. I can probably try to do some more digging, but that's some information on Simply Secure that they have bought. They control, a lot of TTech, and one of the things I should even show, or one of the things I found interesting, is if you look at the price that they bought it at. So this here, so they bought the shares at $2.20, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 41 million, there were two trades. The 41 million, well, there were three trades. Two of the trades were from Teddy. That was the majority of the company. And then 5% of the company was through Christopher, his
Mm-hmm.
holding company. So Simply Secure owns a 49%, right? And if you work that out at the $2.20 price that it traded, that works out to 114 million Jamaican, right? So in one of, I think it was the notice to the Jamaica Stock Exchange, they mentioned, let me pull this up. They mentioned Simply Secure, I'm reading from the notice, July 11th, has indicated that upon the acquisition of 50% or more of TTech shares, it will extend an offer to all remaining TTech shareholders to purchase their shares. They're essentially saying they'd have to do a takeover bid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you work it out, they would only have to buy just under 1% more, which doesn't even work out to that much. I mean, at the $2.20 price, that'd be like 2.1 million. But I'm wondering why I'm wondering if they couldn't have got the shares like Christopher to sell just like a few more shares, because he still has. Christopher didn't. What I should note is that the Teddy or Edward Alexander, the founder of the company, he sold all his shares.
Mm-hmm.
But the Christopher Reckford didn't sell all his shares, so he still has like shares left. And I was kind of interested. I'm like, why did they
Do you
buy?
remember Chris?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool
we
guy,
met
cool guy.
Chris. Yeah,
He reads
very
a
cool
lot.
guy.
I rate that. I rate that.
Yeah.
But you don't think it's interesting that they say
No, not
they do
really.
say
They just
no?
don't want to go for to drop a takeover bid yet. They
Mm-hmm,
probably just they buy a good amount. They're trying to see what they can do with this business, increase it and so on, and then probably drop a
mm-hmm,
takeover bid. But
mm-hmm,
it's coming. It's definitely coming. That's for sure. It's just
mm-hmm.
when.
Oh, we should actually go over. So the reason why the 50% is important. The Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
Stock Exchange rules say that. So say Thaon founded a company, Limitless, and built up the business, and he's like, "Yo, I'm gonna list the business, right?" And Thaon owned, say, 70% of the company, right? List the business, goes on for a few years, does well, but Theon is rich out now, so he's like, yo, I want to like retire and, I'll sell my stake in the business, my 70%. And remember, he controls the company, because if he owns 70%, if he goes to a shareholder meeting and say, yo, I want to change the name to Donkeyfoot or the company, like the other shareholders can vote and say no, but he owns a majority. So he can say, no, I don't, like, I can do what I want.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's
Voting
that
rights.
basically happened. No, saying yeah, but that basically happened at was it this year or last year? I creates AGM,
That
because
happens at
Tyrone controlled the company.
almost
Yeah,
every single AGM, and
yeah.
it's sad to see, but yeah, that one was hilarious. That one was like
Mm.
a movie.
Yeah, I
Tyrone
wish I
just
was
came in and
there.
was just
Wish I
like,
was
"Yo,
there.
I am the captain now."
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so the point of the rule was that if you, Thean, are leaving the company, and say the other shareholders who own I think I was saying 70, you own 70, so they own the, say, 30%.
30.
They, when they bought into the company, they believed in you. and they're like, if Thaon's gonna sell, I don't necessarily want to stay in this company. That's my understanding of why
Why a
the JSC
takeover bid
says why they or what
has
yeah why they have that clause in play to say, okay, say someone was going to buy the company from Theon, they're going to buy that 70%, they are going to be the new controlling shareholder. So the other shareholders should get the right to be able to sell because they
sell.
may not want to align with this person's views. So then he would have to issue, the person who is buying it, you have to put out a document similar to like a prospectus, kind of like you have an IPO that goes into plans about the business and what he
Mm-hmm.
wants to do and things like that. And he has to say, hey, I'm going to offer to buy your shares. And he can offer whichever price he wants.
Yeah.
And you can either accept it or deny it. I mean, either way, he's going to get control because if he's already agreed with Theon to say, hey, Theon, I'm going to buy this at this shares, that's fine. But that's my understanding of why the takeover
Yeah.
rules go into
It's to
play.
just give the other shareholders an exit,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So
Or the
when you
opportunity to exit if they
the
want it.
opportunity, yeah, the
Yeah.
opportunity to exit. So it's
Or
just
the
like you
opportunity.
have to.
Well, yeah, go, sorry.
No, no, no. Well, yeah, I think I know where you're going to, but you're right. Like so anytime you see a takeover bid circular, you'll see, and somebody's going for control. The
Mm-hmm.
offer is there for anybody that wants to sell, any
Mm-hmm.
shareholder, sorry, that wants to sell shares. So as
Mm-hmm.
you can see in the article, it will extend an offer to all remaining TTech shareholders to purchase their shares. That's upon acquisition of 50% or more of TTech shares. So
Mm-hmm.
every takeover bid circular is the same like that in terms of you have to, from you're going for 50% of the company, which is controlling stake. If you're going for control, you have to extend the offer to the remaining shareholders. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, they said this intended offer to the remaining shareholders. So the offer that we intend to do will be contingent on completion of additional due diligence, finalization
Mm-hmm.
of the terms of the offer. Okay, yeah. So essentially, they don't really need to. I see it as they effectively control the company already because to get
Yeah.
this amount of shares, I mean, TTech isn't a very liquid stock, but even if they buy it at the $2.20, that's 2 million Jamaican. They just spent 114. Like, what is extra 2 million to them? Even if they buy
Exactly.
it at $3, it's still $4,
You just
$5.
told me that
Like it's
they're a $750 million company.
well, if that hold on, remember
I know.
that website
You
said
never
less than
no time.
200
Yeah.
million is less than 775 million. But I mean, I guess you can like if they're buying if they spend 114 million, like you must, I'm sure the revenues have to be at least a few multiples higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
Like what bank would lend them the money? So yeah. Um, what I wanted to get into is I think so I'm showing on my screen now the balance sheet of TTech, right? So if you look at the balance sheet, they lay out some important lines. They have investments, which are certificates of deposits, which is like a short term, essentially like a short term loan that they have essentially lent out to someone and then they'll get the money back with you get like a decent interest rate on it. That's like 30 million Jamaican, right?
Yeah.
Then they have governments. They have another line. They say government securities purchased under resale agreements, which is another type. Essentially, is another type of short-term loan. That's 80 million, right? Then they have cash and bank balances, which is 21 million. To me, the investments, so the investments and the government securities are essentially near cash. Like
Yeah.
it's near cash, right? And then the cash is cash. So if you total all of those, that's 133 million. They effectively control the company and they were able to buy it. Well, not the whole company, but they buy the control of the company at 114 million. So the amount that they've spent to control the company is even less than they could easily almost like pay. Like to me, like
Okay.
if you even look at the shareholders' equity, so you take the assets of the company. So that was how much is that? Oh, I didn't have it here, but yeah, the equity, which is essentially saying, okay, whatever money, whatever assets you own, whatever money you owed, if you pay back all those loans with the assets by selling the assets, how much would you have left?
Yeah.
And they have their equity is 240 million. If you even look at the price that the company was trading at, when it was trading at $2.08, it's trading below its book value. It's trading at a discount to the book value. Like it, and if you even look at just where TTech is coming from, this is the lowest stock price it's ever been at. So it's almost like they're
Mm,
buying it at the bottom.
yeah.
Like imagine they buy the company. So they borrow the money from a bank, Simply Secure. So they say, we'll go borrow the 150 million from the bank. Now they get control of the company. They buy the rest to get the 50%. They do their takeover bid, whatever. Maybe no one wants to sell at the price. Then they could just say, okay, TTech, because we control you, let's do some sort of loan that TTech, say, sells some of these investments and stuff like that, and then sells it or essentially can loan some money to Simply Secure. So that Simply Secure can just pay back the debt it took on to buy TTech, and then TTech can just have that loan, and then Simply Secure can just essentially have a loan that it could pay back to TTech.
Mm,
You
fair.
know, yeah. I'm
Convoluted,
not
but
saying
it
they're gonna
makes
do that.
sense.
I'm just saying
Yeah,
like
I know.
even like if you look at it, to me, this is like fundamentally, I guess you'd say, like, asset
A
or accounting wise, it's a pretty good buy.
good deal. Yeah,
Yeah, like it's not
definitely.
well above. You're buying it below book value of the company, below the equity, and pretty considerably, like a decent discount. At the time I was working it out, it was like 9%, and you're also buying the company at the lowest stock price it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
With
and
cash.
you're buying it in a time where things like the Data Protection Act, cybersecurity, those things are possibly key drivers. Because if you even just look at some of the estimates about how much the cybersecurity industry is going to be valued at, it's
Yeah,
like just
it's crazy.
globally, it's billions, and it's growing significantly. It's only going to, I think, continue to grow, especially
Yeah,
with things like AI. Because even think about AI is gonna be on both sides. So AI will help, that hackers can use AI to help hack, but then we are gonna try, the good guys are I guess gonna try to develop AI that can help um fight the hackers, and then you're just gonna be a back and forth. Like, it's gonna be pretty
yeah.
interesting. Um yeah. So that was, I guess, like that was my point, was that to me it seems like a pretty, like, fundamental, it's a good buy, I'd say. Like at the end of the day, you'll have to see, what, like, is Architect's offerings as good as they say? Like, are they going to be able to compete with some of the big players that we mentioned, like a Fortinet and stuff like that? But I definitely think it'll be interesting, because Simply Secure actually even mentions in their plans that, well, in
Yeah,
the
they're
same stock exchange notice, they mention, where is it?
doubling down on like cybersecurity.
Yes, so they mention, okay, they
Yep.
said that the synergies between TTech and SimpliSecure will enhance the services provided by TTech, particularly in the area of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
and
the
they think that,
name simply secure.
yeah,
Yeah, bro.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and what else should I look into? So some of the other plans, I know that they mentioned that they are looking into more government contracts, and
Mm,
that makes sense because the government contracts can be quite large. Apparently they mentioned that, I think it was in a report, that in the past government contracts weren't really like a big thing for them, but now they're actively pursuing, and they've been getting more clients in the government, and they're actively pushing more into this because they see this as a big area of growth for them.
true.
And why they mentioned that they want to capitalize on the Data Protection Act, and why they do that, something that they haven't mentioned, but I mean, I see it as a possibility. Maybe in, I wouldn't say like near future, but maybe 2-3 years from now, they could do an equity raise. They could do a rights issue or an APO, because if you look at it on the balance sheet, when they IPO'd, they only raised at that time, which was, I think it was 2016, they only raised 50 million Jamaican, which is small
Which
for
was the
like a,
bare minimum at that
yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah, wow, 50
Yeah,
million
50 mil.
Jamaican. And
Mm-hmm.
the junior market now has a limit of 500 million, but we're supposed to get an increase to 750 million. So they could possibly raise 700 million when that limit gets increased. I would think
Mm-hmm.
that it wouldn't be fun now, because they'd probably want to kind of do a bit better. Because if you look at TTech and how it's been kind of performing over the years,
Yeah.
sharing my screen. So 2018, they're doing like 27 million in profit. Bam, nice. 2019, 24 million in profit. Okay, drop a little. 2020, the year of COVID, 22 million, not bad. 2021, the year after, 8 million. 2022, a big loss, a loss of 22 million. 2023, they kind of turned around a bit. They did 20 million profit. But I found this interesting because even it's the year of
COVID.
COVID,
Yeah.
right? A lot of us were transitioned to like online and things like that.
And
So I
it's
would
not just
thought,
me and you, it's businesses, it's everybody.
yeah. So I thought more businesses were using things like online shopping and
Yeah,
or website more would have transitioned more like and more. I'm sure even with what happened, businesses are trying to realize, hey, if that were to happen again or something similar, and we had to go back to maybe lockdowns even for a certain period, it makes sense that I have like some amount of IT infrastructure so that people can work from home and the
precisely.
data is secure. So I thought that, they would have experienced actually a boom,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't really like 2021 was less profit and then 2020, but I guess it's also because businesses maybe were making less money, so then the
Less
amount that they could
client
spend
funds
on
too.
it, yeah. But if you look at it to so far for the year up to June, that's the most recent report. They're doing all right. They're profitable, just under 6 million in profit. But if you annualize that, so what they did for the first 6 months, if they match that for the next 6 months to the end of 2024, they'd only do about 11, just about 12 million in profit. So not necessarily that good. So, and if you just look at the stock price, you know, the the stock price is, as I said, it's like the lowest I think it's ever really been.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can see the TTech is coming from a high of almost $10 in 2017.
Wow.
Ever since then, it's just been dropping $7, $5. Like literally, they're buying it at the bottom. Like look at I don't know if you see the little arrow or not
Yeah.
arrow, dotted line. Like you can see that's the acquisition price. They're buying it. It's actually fun. They bought it, I guess, above market price really. There's no, well, the current market price is now $2. So they
Yeah.
bought it at $2.20, and it's now $2. Um, but yeah, for me with the T Tech, I I like, I guess, the industry. It's something that I kind of know stuff about IT. It's it makes sense that if they are able to be competitive, if their products are good, that they can slice out a piece of this pie, and I think it's going to be a big pie because another thing, they don't even necessarily have to be restricted to Jamaica. They
That's the
mentioned, I
biggest
think,
thing
even
because
looking into
look at that
other
partnership with
countries.
Simply Secure.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose they do like a merger, bro. Like
Mm.
a merger, I mean, they would take on a lot of Simply Secure's clients and
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. And who knows how many clients well, we kind of already see the type of
Mm-hmm.
clients they have. And if a lot of their teams start doing similar work, if they start to like gelling in that actual merger type way,
Mm-hmm.
then I can see them growing significantly with Simply Secure. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely want to watch.
Yes. I mean, yeah. I guess. Yeah. I want to see what Simply Secure is gonna do with the company. Um, could we see like a resurgence of T Tech back to the highs? Like if this
Of
kind of thing is
tens,
interesting, like to see them turn around. Like this is stock is trading at like $2 now. Another thing too, look at the buy queue. Well, the queue
Simply
in general is
Secure,
it's very hard to get shares.
true. Simply Secure could use them to raise money still because
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to raise money with a listed. I mean, why else would they buy a listed company? There must be a reason why they bought a listed company. Access to
Mm-hmm.
equity, maybe. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Equity funding. Imagine them doing a raise, a $1 rights issue.
Why do you keep thinking it's gonna be a rights issue?
A boy can dream.
They can do a
Zine.
$2. They can do a two. Imagine a $2 APO.
Yawn.
Yeah, or we should just plug once again our guys. So we did an episode. Well, when a company raises money, or when they list on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, they can do what's known as an IPO or an initial public offering because it's the first time they are offering or allowing us, the public, to be able to get shares in the company. And so they can list the shares on the stock exchange like TTech did. And then suppose TTech says, we want to raise some more money to, buy this business or to expand into our cybersecurity products or whatever, you know, we can either borrow the money or we can do an equity raise. So we can essentially create new shares and then allow investors to participate, whether it's existing shareholders or outside shareholders. So that's the difference. That's what we call a secondary offering when you come the second time, or
Yeah.
well, not just the second time, like your second, third, fourth, whatever, not the first time. You're, coming to market and saying, hey, would you guys like to buy into our company? And there are two ways you can do that. You can either do a rights issue or you can do an APO. Rights issue, you give existing shareholders the first right to refusal. But we do a full episode, well, two full episodes where we talk about rights issue versus APO. I will try to link that. Um, yeah, but I mean, to me, I, I,
T-Tech at 10, bro. T-Tech to 10 if them do a rights. Them do
but
a
I mean,
rights issue and merge with Simple Secure. T-Tech to 10. Remember
I
me
don't
tell
know,
you.
I don't know about that, but
2 years
I mean,
time.
oh, okay, wow.
The writing's on the
Um,
wall.
yeah, but even the thing is, like, even something like this, it doesn't really take. I was doing some projections on what it could look like. So the the orange, I was saying, okay, 2025, 2026, what could it look like? And these are just like some rough estimates. I was saying, okay, if they were to increase their revenues. So last year, 2023, they did 463 million in revenues, 20 million profits. Um, that's a net profit margin of 4%. And if 2025, if they were to, increase their revenues 550 million, but they actually don't necessarily have to maintain the same net profit margin. If they did 3% net profit margin, they could do 18 million in profit. But then if they further increase their revenues because of some of the things we've said, increased need for cybersecurity, increased need for data protection, compliance, and they have those products that, we're hoping that companies will eat up. If they do 650 million in revenue because of those outliers, which would be, a pretty big increase still, but let's see.
Definitely.
Um, if they could, actually increase their net profit margin, they could end up doing 44 million in profit. And we work it out right now at the with their 2023 earnings at a $2.34 price. They're trading, that's a PE of 12.
Yeah.
So if the price was, I should put it at $2 because that's the market price now. So at $2, at a $2 price, their price to earnings ratio, oh, we should say that the price to earnings ratio is just one of the valuation metrics that you can use for a company. Essentially, you take the earnings of the company, which is a profit, you divide it by the number of shares in the company, you get earnings per share. Then you take the stock price of the company and you divide the stock price by the earnings per share, you get price to earnings ratio. Generally, the lower the better, but it's not that simple. If they were to do what I said in 2026, where they increase their revenues, increase their net profit margin, they could do 44 million profit, which isn't a big deal, but for a company their size, it's a big deal. If they were to keep the same $2 price, that PE would be 5,
Yeah.
which, most, I'd say, let me see what the junior
The
market
junior market average.
average is what? Let's see. Oh no, overview. Oops. It'd be nice, I guess, if they had other competitors in the space. I don't think this is right. This is saying 100 and no, I don't think this is right. But yeah, like I'd say most investment analysts or stuff that I see will be like, I mean, PE, if you're buying like below 15, 10 or so, that let's say, that's a pretty good PE.
Yeah.
So the fact that the PE could be 5, you'd be like, whoa, that's actually pretty low and interesting. And then the other thing too is that it's like a growth company. It's a small company, so they can actually grow pretty. It's a lot easier for them to grow, to double their
Yeah.
revenues, triple their revenues. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know about your $10 price, whatever, but even to me, like in the next 2-3 years, or
Mm-hmm.
even say next. So say Simply Secure turns around the business. They um they cross sell some of their clients, so they say, okay, TTech offers this, we don't offer this. Let's give this to TTech. And they just change up the company, apply some of the things that they're doing for Simply Secure. They try to apply that to TTech. They essentially turn around the business. I wouldn't be surprised to even see it start price at even $3, and even they're buying at $2 now for it to go to $3 or so. That's what, 50%.
Yeah, that's 50%. So
So
bad 50. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so yeah, I guess we will see if TTech if Simply Secure is able to turn around the business. I would love to have the CEO on. I would love to have the CEO on to talk about their plans for the business. I think it would
Mm.
definitely be interesting to see.
I'm gonna try to reach out to him and see what he says. Let's see,
Mm-hmm.
guys. If you'd want Sir Kevin on the podcast, right? You can call him and say Theon and Matthew are extending an invitation. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you guys want to see him, comment down below. Like this if you actually liked it. Subscribe if you loved this episode, and if you like the kind of format that we're doing. If you want us to talk about anything else, you can always just leave it either in the link that Preston's gonna leave in terms of the ticker itself. If you want us to analyze certain companies, you can leave it there or drop it in the comments, and we always read all our comments. So yes, guys, thank you so much. Preston,
Peace.
anything else?
No,
Peace. That's it.
peace.
Limitless out.